Today I've invited Debbie Miller to a Zoom recording for a broadcast. Debbie, a warm welcome and hi to our radio program.
Shalom.
Debbie Miller is the educator at Beth Shalom, the Progressive Synagogue in Auckland. And as we are approaching the end of February, mid-end of February, we are approaching also the Jewish feast of Purim. So I thought we'll ask Debbie a little bit about Purim, when it starts and what it is about. Debbie, can you tell us more about Purim?
So Purim is a holiday. It's mentioned in the Bible. It's in the Book of Esther, and Esther's the main heroine in the story. And thank goodness we do have a few stories in the Bible where women are the heroine and Esther saves the day. We can relate to this story quite well because it's a story of a Jewish person living in the diaspora. At that point, it was in Persia in the 5th century. And Esther is basically functioning as a very much looks like everybody else. Nobody knows she's Jewish. It's a story that most Jews who live in the diaspora can really relate to. And it's really interesting from the point of view that at no point, this is the one place in the Bible, at no point do you hear God's name. God is not returned to. It's a story it's like a historical story that we can all tell and celebrate. And what it is, the Purim literally means lots, which literally means Haman, the evil person or the in the story, he draws lots and he's going to kill off all the Jewish people. So at the beginning of the story, it starts out that there's another woman who refuses who is the Queen Vashti, and she refuses the king's demand that she come and perform in front of all the men. And she's like, no. And like all of us feminists say, wow, good for Vashti, but she also gets kicked out of the palace, and because she wouldn't do what the king asked. There are different discussions about how much she was supposed to reveal herself to all these other men and show her beauty. That's a whole nother story. But the real crux of it is Ahasuerus, the Persian king, decides he's going to check out all the women of Persia and he's going to find the most beautiful one to be his new queen.
So that's the king. The king decides if the queen doesn't do what he wants, she's gone. Out.
Kick her out. So he gets a new one, and the new one is Esther. But unbeknownst to him, Esther is Jewish. But in that world that she was living in, she was flying very much below the radar, and she was just beautiful, and he picked her to be the queen. And in those days, men lived in one palace, women lived in the other palace, and every now and then they came together. And so anyway, Esther's uncle who raised her because she was an orphan was a very religious Jew, and his name was Mordecai. And he would come and visit her. And it was discovered by Mordecai that somebody was trying to poison the king, and he tells and he reports on him, and he saves the king's life, and it's recorded in this book that he saved the king's life. But he also got into conflict with Haman because Haman made this decree that everybody had to bow down to him. And
who is Haman?
Haman's an advisor to the king, like a chief viceroy to the king. And he wanted everybody to bow down to him. And Mordecai said, sorry, I'm Jewish. I don't bow down to other people. The only thing I bow down to is God. And so he got in this conflict, and the viceroy is discovered these Jews have this weird thing. They're not willing to bow down to me. I don't like the Jews. We're going to get rid of them. I'm the viceroy to the king.
That sounds almost like Vashti, who didn't want to please the king and obey anything, and she was kicked out. So he wanted to kick Mordecai out, right?
Mordecai was more of a serious transgression because he wanted him killed. And so, anyway, the long and the short of it is that he goes to Esther and he says, Esther, you need to tell the king that you're Jewish, and that if the king signs this document that Haman is trying to get him to sign to kill off all the Jews, he will be killing you. And in those days, women had no power. And it's not much, there's some sort of commonality there too in a lot of countries today. So she went to the king, and he knew that she never approached him, he always approached her. And that if the king didn't actually stick out his staff to actually allow her to come in, she could be killed. So she was very nervous. She fasted the day before she was going to go. She went and had a feast for him. She said, please come. I'm having a feast for you at my palace. Please come. And so he came. He put out his staff to her. She told him, please, I'm inviting you for this feast. They come. And she tells him that the plan to kill off all the Jewish people will actually be killing her. And he says, oh, well, I didn't realize that. And he says no, and he gives the Jews the permission to, this part's the hard part, to have repercussions, and they go out, and all the hangman things that were originally designed to kill off all the Jews are used against all of Haman and his descendants. And in honor of this triumph of not being destroyed, we do a couple of things. One, which we always do most of the time in Judaism, we eat. We always eat, and connected to every festival except Yom Kippur, we always eat. There's food involved. So there's a feast that we have to celebrate, and then there is also, we dress up in disguise. Why do we dress up? Because Esther actually was like wearing a disguise. So we dress up in disguise, and everybody wears masks and costumes. And then we also are supposed to drink, because we're not supposed to be able to tell the difference between, we're supposed to get drunk enough. Jews never get drunk. They have like one little tiny cup on Shabbat to say the blessing over, but they generally don't. Purim is the one time we are ordered to get drunk, which is you're supposed to be drunk enough that you can't distinguish between Haman and Mordecai. Frankly speaking, I used to have a rabbi who said to me that you could just have a little cup, and if it made you tired, you went to sleep. And when you went to sleep, you couldn't tell the difference between Haman and Mordecai, which is more up my alley because I'm really not into drinking. But
Debbie, what kind of dressing up? You said you dress up.
Oh, we wear masks. We wear masks, and we wear costumes, and we reenact the play. So there's lots of Esthers and Mordecais dressed up in Hamans, and Ahasuerus, who's the king. And then there's just people who just wear whatever they want because it's a dress-up thing. I once became a spider. Another time I found, people dress up as M&Ms. I mean, it can just be creative, but a lot of it is reenacting the story. We also do Purim plays where we enact the story and we tell the story, and they all dress up in the costumes of the characters they're supposed to be in. It's a very fun holiday. We read the story. We actually read the Megillah, the scroll of Esther. And when we read it, every time Haman's name comes up, everybody has noisemakers, and we make a lot of noise. It's very annoying and very loud.
I remember that I went to one celebration, and when one name came, it was always boo, and the other name came yay.
Oh, that's just my own synagogue's creative things. But traditionally, you're supposed to always make a noise when you hear Haman's name. That's the goal.
And do you also have the fasting that Esther did before?
Yes. So, yeah, you're supposed to fast 2 days before, because she fasted before she went to see King Ahasuerus. So there are among the very traditional community, people have the fast of Esther. Yeah, I don't fast on the fast of Esther. But
that's interesting because the Catholics in Germany, for example, they have Carnival, and Carnival is before the fasting. So you have to enjoy your life because then on Ash Wednesday, fasting starts. So and Purim is the other way around. You first have the fasting and then the celebration.
Well, it's feeling like in you're supposed to feel like supportive or in conjunction with Esther's life-threatening event that you're supporting her stepping forward, because you have to understand this is a person who was basically raised and flying below the radar, not coming out of the closet as being Jewish to anybody. Nobody knew she was Jewish, and all of a sudden in the highest position in the land she's going to come out of the closet and say, here I am, I'm Jewish, and don't destroy my people and me. It was a big deal.
So you read the story every year?
Yes, we do everything every year. Once you do something in Judaism, you always do it. Once a tradition, it's for all time. So it's very much a retelling of historical, but it's also part of our story too. And
how is the date set? Is it always the same date, or does it have to do with the moon, or with what?
First of all, the Jewish holidays are always different every year according to the Gregorian calendar, because we go according to the moon calendar, a lunar calendar, and so it always comes up different every year. It's the same date in the Jewish year every year. It's on Adar, which is the, we always say, be happy it's Adar because Purim's in it. So Adar is the month. It's always at the same time, but it comes out different every time.
What is Adar?
Adar's the name of the month.
Oh, okay.
All of our months have different names than your months.
Yeah, so you can't compare it. So you would know that Purim is around the time of February, March. Is that correct?
Yes. It's always around that time, but we have these weird things. We always say, oh, Purim's late this year, Purim's early this year. We say that about everything because it's all in relation to the calendar that we're living in our regular everyday lives. But it's actually on the same date every year. It's just on a lunar calendar.
Yeah. And so the children learn it when they dress up. They dress up too, so the adults and the children dress up, everybody.
Yes. Well, hypothetically, I mean, there are adults who don't dress up, and but for the most part, kids do dress up, and adults, it depends how open you are to that kind of thing. So I dress up.
Is that something that is across the board of Orthodox and Progressive?
Everybody.
So,
first of all, Orthodox and Progressive and any kind of Jew, we all celebrate all the holidays. We just do it differently sometimes when it comes to the stringency about whether we light fires or don't light fires, or but Purim actually is a holiday that is not bound by that stringency. In other words, you're allowed to cook, you're allowed to light fires, you're allowed to even do some work on that day if you want to. It doesn't have the stringent Orthodox divisions that you find. So what you find is, we're all commanded to hear the story of Purim, and we're all commanded to feast, and we're all commanded to get drunk, and we're all commanded to have mass. But all the other things that are difficult, or you find differences between Orthodox and Reform, don't really exist on Purim because Purim's not that stringent of a holiday.
Can be quite difficult when the synagogue is far away and you need to get drunk, because I remember you telling me one day that many Jews used to live close to the synagogue, especially that they could walk on Shabbat.
But this isn't a Shabbat. This doesn't have the rules of Shabbat. So
yeah, but you still have the rule. You have the rule of not getting drunk.
Well, yeah, but I don't think. Oh, you mean because you can't drink and drive? I get it. Well, there's a thing called Uber, and there's taxis, and there's friends, and there's people like me that don't drink. There's always there's always a solution. But this is a day we can use money and take taxis and all those kinds of things. So it's really not like on Shabbat, if it would be a problem, but it's not.
So what happens if Purim falls on a Shabbat?
It would just, I don't know. I don't ever remember Purim falling on a Shabbat. That's bizarre. I've never experienced Purim on Shabbat.
When does Purim start? In the evening, like Jewish holidays?
Every Jewish holiday starts in the evening. Everyone. There is, what do you call it? That's just the way our days start. So there's no Jewish holiday that starts during the day. It all starts at sunset and it ends at sunset.
Okay.
So that's it. But the thing that the nice part about Purim is we also have a tradition of giving what we call mishloach manot, which is everybody's supposed to make another person joyous or happy. So we're supposed to take little packages and give them to people that we know. In my synagogue, the kids have been busy making little packages, and they're all going to take them out to the elderly in our community on Purim, and they'll go visit them and bring them. It has like a little drink and some cookies, and we have special little triangular cookies which are called Hamantashen or Oznei Haman. Hamantashen is the Yiddish name. Yeah. Oznei Haman is the Hebrew name. Literally means Haman's ears. Haman's the bad guy, and we eat his ears. They're very yummy. They're little triangle-filled cookies with like jam or poppy seed filling in them, and it's just fun. So we make these little packages with drinks and hamantashen and a little present in them, and we give them out to people. And so on the day of Purim, a lot of people go around delivering packages. It's very nice.
That's wonderful. Sounds like a very joyful and happy day.
Yeah, it is. It's really lovely.
Remembering Esther's feast.
Yeah, it's actually remembering a great woman who rose to an occasion that actually literally endangered her lives, and she saved the Jewish people. So I think we can all sort of relate to that. Like, we all have opportunities in our lives where we have trials and we have to step out outside our comfort zone to defend other people or save other people or stick up for something that's right. And this is really a celebration of that. And, I think, what do they say? The biggest danger in our world is the danger of apathy, or when others die while other people are hurt. And the lesson is really there. We can all live in our palaces, but the reality is that stepping outside our comfort zone and defending what is right, evil happens when people don't stick up for things.
I think it's also important to know, it's with the building bridges in our interfaith community, because when I look at the story that you've just told, the king had no idea who the Jews were. He didn't think that he knew any Jews, but then he realized that a Jew saved his life, and he selected a Jewish woman out of all the beautiful women in the country. So now that he had a relationship, he didn't want to kill them. And I think that's what we do with the building bridges, because we say we build bridges, we are friends, and then you would think, why would anybody say that this cultural or ethnic or faith group is all bad? I have a friend who is of that group, so it can't be.
That's right. I agree. You're doing important work, or we are doing important work.
Yes.
Because you're my friend.
Well, that's why we have to understand our feast days and to know a little bit more about what we are doing. So, for example, when we have the Religious Diversity Center calendar and it says Purim and it says Jewish celebration, then we need to know what is behind Purim. And can you just repeat the meaning of Purim, the word Purim?
So Pur literally means lots, like you draw lots. And so they were drawing lots as to who would be killed on the hangman's thing. that Haman was setting up. So that's what the Pur is about. And then we turned that whole word into like this joyous festival. It's like turning the whole concept on its head. You know, we took the most stressful, unbelievably dangerous part of the whole story and we turned it into the name, and then we all celebrate that we're going to have Purim. So it's sort of ironic. It's really very classically ironic, you know?
Yeah. And you said it's like a historic story. Is it a story?
It's a story that, you know, it's not like saying, oh, did you believe in God? It's like, oh, how did you live your life in the real reality of day to day where people hide who they are and then have to come out, and nobody said, oh, please God help me. Yeah, well, I suppose she did when she was probably praying when she was fasting. That was definitely important.
Yes.
But it's not like God come and do this. It's like this world and the way it's going to be is in my hands and I have to take action. And that's more of a like historic event than it is like, oh, I believe. It's like, do I have the inner guts to be who I really am? Am I going to acknowledge my identity?
I think that's an important point because it's about faith and action. And you said she was under the radar, but she had this very faithful uncle who supported her. And in a way, you can see that he supported her. He didn't put her under pressure, but he did raise the awareness. You have the chance. You are the woman who has been selected out of all women. The king wanted to have you. So there is a purpose in why you have been selected, because
exactly.
God will always support every decision, wouldn't it?
I like that. There is a purpose. There is a reason why you are placed at this juncture in time, at this historic point, because you are there, because you had the chance. And this is actually what Mordecai said to her. This is why you're here. God put you here because you are going to have the chance to save the Jewish people. And, you know, I think we all have that power. I mean, I think if we think about it, we all have that power. We are all placed on this juncture in time because we have something important to do to make this place a better place, to make our relationships with our fellow human beings of a higher level. You know, and you have to find the reason you're here. You're not here to make one more dollar. You're not here to have one more thing in your house. You're here to improve the quality of the way we exist on this earth. You know, and everybody has a reason and everybody has a purpose. Yes, and we need to find out what that is.
And it's not, for her, it was not prayer or action. It was the combination. You need the prayer to have the strength for the action.
Yeah.
Thank you
so much. Strength.
Thank you so much, Debbie. I think that we have learned a lot about Purim, and which is really wonderful. And I'm looking forward to our next session when we talk about another Jewish holiday. And there are so many that we will never run out of Jewish holidays.
No kidding. We specialize. There's only one holiday in the Jewish calendar, which is Cheshvan, and we call it Mar Cheshvan, the bitter month, because it's the only month that doesn't have a holiday in it.
Oh, my God. When is that month?
I think it's around, gosh, I can't even remember. I think it's around October, November.
Must be very bitter.
It's after a lot of holidays. It's okay.
maybe it's the time that you have to fast and pray for the next holidays to come up.
No, we got praying down pat in our religion.
Okay. Thank you so much, Debbie.
Take care. See you.
Okay.